Hola, hola, my name is Ramon, cosmetic chemist, product developer, lover of sunscreen scientist, if you will. It has been a minute since I've been in the setup. It's been a minute since I've done one of these videos. It feels good to be back. As the title of the video suggests, today we're doing a sunscreen review on a very highly anticipated sunscreen. We're talking The Ordinary's UV Filters SPF 45 Serum. This is a recent launch. It came out, actually, backstory. I went to the Deciem headquarters for a trip back in January. And at that point, they had us in something called the boardroom. And there was, you could tell they had a meeting prior to that discussing like NPD briefs for future product launches. And Derm Angelo clocked, but then this came out a few months later. And right now we're in August. So it's been out for a minute. I've been playing with this for the last couple months. I have opinions. If you don't know, or you don't remember, The Ordinary had a sunscreen that came out years and years and years ago. I'm talking before I made content, and it was a mineral only sunscreen. It was disgusting. And honestly, I'm surprised they had it around for as long as they did, because it was notoriously a very bad sunscreen. Interestingly, it took them a long time to develop this. And I kind of really want to understand why. And looking at the formulation, I have thoughts. I'll get to that in the formulation section of the video. But yeah, I really wonder why it took so long to get here. And it's interesting that this is the launch that they came up with first. So I'm really interested to see, are they going to do more? Are they going to expand this line? What more can they give us in the sun care department? Because obviously The Ordinary, to me, they innovate a lot while keeping things fairly price accessible. So yeah, I just have questions. If you haven't seen one of my sunscreen reviews, we divide these into different chapters, which I'll have down below, so you can slide to whatever you want to watch. But we talk about the feel, finish, filters, formulation, foundation wear, and fragrance. So you can fast forward to whichever part of the video matters to you most. But as a cosmetic chemist and scientist who works on sunscreen formulation, obviously I'm going to break down the formulation. But as a consumer, we're talking about the user experience, and I'm going to try to be as detailed and objective as possible. Let me know down below in the comment section, have you tried this yet? What your thoughts on it are, and what other sunscreens should I review for the channel? So yeah, some of the marketing for the UV Filters SPF Serum. I'm on Sephora's website. They're saying it's a broad spectrum sunscreen that hydrates, protects against sun damage, and leaves skin looking luminous without clogging pores. Sephora says it's meant for basically every skin type, but it really addresses dryness with more of a serum texture. They also claim it's lightweight, cast-free, daily sun care formula that delivers immediate and all-day hydration. It layers effortlessly when makeup and skincare is non-comedogenic and leaves skin with a natural looking luminous finish. One thing about Deciem, which again, getting to see it in person was very gaggy, they have the capabilities of doing a lot of in vitro and I believe in vivo clinical testing in their facility. It's like one big warehouse space. Clinical testing provided SPF 45 protection, obviously in vivo third-party testing most likely, compatible with makeup and skincare. They do a lot of testing with layering, combining, ensuring the efficacy of their products with each other, like very The Ordinary ecosystem led. And then they approved instant all-day hydration, which is really easy to do with a corneometer, for example. Let me check The Ordinary's website real quick to see if there's anything else that's interesting. No, so they really pushed the great with makeup, no white casts, all-day hydration. So getting into the 6 Fs, let's start with feel and finish, how the product applies and how it looks on the skin. You can see I apply it on my face. I think I use about 4 to 5 pumps for my face. And the feel of it is it's super lightweight. It's a very serum-like texture, like a serum milky emulsion texture. So the break and the spread on the skin is so easy and it melts in very, very quickly, which I do think, I mean, obviously for a fairly high protection sunscreen is really, really nice to have. It definitely gives a more positive user experience. It works in super easily. I don't have any issues with facial hair, hairline, none of that. And you don't feel it on the skin. It doesn't feel like a suffocating or very, very creamy, rich layer on the skin. In terms of finish though, you can see it is luminous. It is glowy, it is dewy, but they don't lie about that. They make no effort to make you think it's gonna be a matte sunscreen or give you a natural finish. No, they do claim it is dewy, and there's a couple ingredients that are responsible for that I'll get to in a minute. So the feel of it is it's super lightweight, melts into the skin, which is a really positive attribute, but it has an emollience to it, I will say that. So it's like, especially on my hands, you see like this glow and this film and it kind of like gets on everything. And again, I don't feel greasy, but I have oily skin. So when it's like I have this already very luminous, somewhat emollient layer, and then I start to get oily, it's a little bit of a sensory nightmare. So if you have more normal to dry skin, this could be the sunscreen for you. I will concede that. I mentioned the finish, it's glowy. It is radiant, it is dewy. If you have oily skin and you don't powder, it's going to give oil slick. That being said, powder it down is stunning, it's gorgeous, but I do love a more glowy look. I'm glow by Ramon for a reason. Getting into the filters and formulation. So this is a chemical sunscreen, which is why I did the 6 Fs. So as a chemical sunscreen, this is formulated for the US market, but distributed globally. globally. So every market you go to buy the sunscreen, it is the US formulation, which before you start acting crazy up in the comments, they are safe filters. They are still globally, again, this is sold everywhere because those filters are approved in every market because they are safe. Because chemical UV filters are so scrutinized, they're some of the most consistently reassessed for safety and still proven very safe. So they had to use American filters, but that being said, they did attain an SPF 45 PA4+. So very good UVA protection. I don't think they released the actual UVA PF value anywhere though, which is interesting. I've done a lot of content recently, if you follow me on Instagram and TikTok, discussing UVA protection, particularly in US sunscreens and what these things mean in different markets. I'm just trying to verify if in the UK market, it has the UVA circle, which that UVA circle on a sunscreen in the UK denotes that the UVA PF is at least 1/3 of the advertised SPF value. Well, actually, let's do some math here. If the SPF is 45 and 1/3 of that is 15, that's not a PA4+, but it has a PA4+ rating, which means the UVA PF has to be at least 16, so do with that information what you will. Anyways, filters. This uses octocrylene, homosalate, octosalate, and avobenzone. So avobenzone's a fantastic, amazing UVA filter. Octocrylene is UVB into UVA2, and then homosalate and octosalate are UVB filters. The octocrylene, I love it in a sunscreen, and I feel like a lot of the US sunscreens that get that PA4+ do feature that for that boost in UVA2 protection, but also it helps to really stabilize avobenzone. There's also some other stuff that helps with the avobenzone stability as well. Formulation wise, things to point out, this is not water or sweat resistant. This is alcohol and fragrance free though. So if you have sensitive skin, this could be a really good option for you. Major formulation highlights in this. Interestingly, it has isododecane as the second ingredient, which is a volatile ingredient. You see it a lot in like liquid lipsticks or liquid eyeshadows. It's a really volatile ingredient that flashes off to allow the liquid lip or liquid eyeshadow to set very quickly. Also, truth be told, I don't really use it a lot when formulating sunscreens, but I wonder if that's one of the main solubilizers for the crystalline filters. Avobenzone, for example, is a powder filter, whereas homosalate and octosalate, they are emollient filters. They're like already in a liquid base. So those in themselves can aid in dissolving avobenzone, for example, but usually you'll see other emollient esters that aid in that process as well. So I'm wondering if isododecane is being used for that purpose. But in my experience in education, there's a lot more effective emollients for that. There's an ingredient here called diethylhexyl-2,6-naphthalate. That's one of the main ingredients, I think, that's contributing to the high shine and like the radiance of the sunscreen, but it's also an ingredient that aids in avobenzone stability and efficacy in a formulation. One of the other interesting things, and getting into like the sunscreen science of it, the emulsion type of our sunscreen can be very important. And if you're not aware, there's different types of emulsions. There's oil and water and oil. There's more, but we're gonna stick to those right now. When you have a water and oil sunscreen where oil is the main phase, but you have fine water droplets dispersed in that phase, you're ensuring a higher protection value. But because oil is that main phase, those tend to feel really inelegant and really oily. So a lot of companies now have really innovated so that you have oil and water emulsions where the water is the main phase, oil droplets are dispersed in that, but they've essentially innovated to make it so that once you spread it, it feels really nice and lightweight, but you have a really robust film still left on the skin. Interestingly, this is giving water and oil emulsion, but that was very interesting for a sunscreen from The Ordinary. One active that's in here that I don't think they really talk about or really feature in the marketing is acetylcarnosine, which is an ingredient that can function as an antioxidant. I'm wondering if there's any benefit to that could boost or promote the PA4+ benefit, for example. PA4+ is based on persistent pigment darkening and it's associated to UVA protection. A lot of what that's based off is specific generation of essentially free radicals that cause inflammation and essentially promote the pigmentary response. So if you can essentially help quench the free radicals, that is one means of helping to boost UVA protection by helping to reduce the likelihood that pigmentation will form. That's why you see a lot of brands talk about blue light protection, because they're just antioxidants that are helping to quench the free radicals. And UVA1 into visible lights, one of the main things that they do is, again, generate those free radicals, and that's why they lead to pigmentary responses in especially Fitzpatrick 4, 5, 6 skin tones. You also got phospholipids, sphingolipids. You have glycerin really far down on the ingredients list, surprisingly. Those are just helping to hydrate, really help with moisturization, supporting the barrier. So overall, a really interesting inky, but I feel like the marketing wise didn't really highlight too much besides the fact that this is going to hydrate you, this is going to give you good protection. And I feel like for a lot of Ordinary's other products, they really hype up all these different ingredients in the products and all the benefits you can get from those. So I feel like they were kind of underselling this slightly, in my opinion. So now to foundation wear, as they really talk about and they really push in the marketing, this is great under foundation as skin prep. It's super moisturizing, but very lightweight. it doesn't pill. I have not had it pill, and I've actually used it with a bevy of ordinary serums from their like new antioxidant one. I've used it with their salicylic acid one, with their niacinamide, with their hyaluronic acid and B5 serums. I've had no issues and no pilling. I've layered it over different moisturizers, regrettably, very glowy. But I find that the texture is very lightweight, sets down very nicely. Foundation goes on top of it effortlessly. And actually, I did not have an issue with my foundation getting like very, very shiny faster than normal. So I don't really think the radiance of the sunscreen itself will affect the overall matte-ness or finish of your foundation. Also touching on this, I have not had any issues with any eye stinging. I rarely do. When you see me, I lather this stuff in my eyes. No issue with that. And in terms of a white cast, they talk about no white cast. I've seen a lot of deep skin creators try this on. Also, just objectively, there's nothing in here that's really going to lend itself to a white cast. Fundamentally, it sinks into really rich skin tones beautifully, and there's no concern. I haven't seen any concern or issue with white casts. And lastly, fragrance. There's no scent in this product. And smelling it, it just smells like a very traditional sunscreen. So it smells like sunscreen, but doesn't have any perfume or added fragrance to it to make it smell any different. So overall, I do like attributes of this sunscreen. Obviously, I have oily skin, so this is not meant for me, but I by no means think this is a bad sunscreen. And obviously, if you have normal to dry skin, this is going to be for you. If you love a very glowy sunscreen, this is for you. And for me, the biggest pro is that this does feel weightless. This does have a very thin, milky consistency, and it doesn't feel too rich, but it does have emollients to it. That's my biggest con. I think it's interesting. This is what The Ordinary launched first for sun care. I don't think they're lying in their marketing, which is great, and therefore I don't think they're trying to mislead you in any capacity. I'm surprised they didn't do like a multi-sunscreen launch. Maybe this for more dry skin and a more oily skin compatible option. With The Ordinary, one of the big pros is let's keep the formulation as concise as we need it to be for this. A couple extra things for added benefits, but really this is the main point of this. UV filters, SPF 45. And the other part of that is it helps keep costs very low. The formulation is as bare bones as it could be. And with sunscreens, you can't be super bare bones because a lot of factors go into creating an efficacious sunscreen. But I think a con of keeping things super, super simple or as concise is that sometimes elegance is lost, or the formula is not as nice and doesn't have the elevated user experience that I would necessarily want from a product. So I do like this. I do have, I guess, feedback per se. But again, this is only, you get 50 mil, you get 60 mil, and it's $19 at Sephora. Right now, at this moment that I'm saying this, it's August 8th. They're doing a 20% off deal on The Ordinary's website. Not an ad, I'm just on their website right now. So you could get it for cheaper. So do I recommend this? Yes, but it's specific to your skin type and the benefit you want from it. It is lightweight, but it's very glowy. It's affordable, good protection. It's not water and sweat resistant, but it is alcohol and fragrance free. And again, no white cast, great under makeup. So their marketing hits all the main points. For me, I give this like a B- in that it's not specifically for me, but there's a lot of attributes I do like from it. I hope we either see more sunscreen launches or they work to refine this a little bit. That's just my opinion. But let me know in the comments, have you tried the new UV Filters SPF 45 serum from The Ordinary? What your thoughts on it are, what your experience has been on it, and actually let me know, what would you want to see from them sun care wise? Maybe they're reading the comments. And with that, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so that you know when I post more skincare, sunscreen, and beauty related content on my channel. Give the video a thumbs up, and thanks for watching, guys. Bye.